Are we addicted to our phones more than we admit? This question often makes people uncomfortable, not because it is obviously false, but because it feels uncomfortably close to the truth. Most of us prefer to believe that we are rational users of technology, capable of controlling our habits whenever we want. We say that our phones are simply tools that help us work efficiently, stay connected, and relax after a long day. However, when we examine our behavior more honestly, especially the emotional and psychological patterns behind our phone use, it becomes clear that the relationship is far more complex than we like to admit. Addiction does not always appear in extreme or dramatic forms. In many cases, it develops quietly, disguised as routine and convenience. We rarely notice the moment when a helpful tool begins to demand our attention rather than serve it. For example, many people check their phones automatically, without a clear purpose. A short glance at the screen can turn into prolonged scrolling, even when there is nothing important to see. This behavior may seem harmless, but repetition turns it into a habit, and habits gradually shape the way our minds function. One of the most revealing signs of phone addiction is not the amount of time we spend on our devices, but our reaction when we are separated from them. Forgetting a phone at home, losing internet access, or running out of battery can cause a level of anxiety that seems out of proportion to the situation. Rationally, we know that nothing serious will happen, yet emotionally, we feel uneasy, disconnected, or even irritated. This reaction suggests that phones have become more than tools. They function as emotional supports, helping us manage stress, boredom, and uncertainty. Modern life plays an important role in this dependence. We live in an environment filled with constant pressure, expectations, and information. Silence and inactivity, once normal parts of daily life, now feel uncomfortable to many people. Phones provide immediate stimulation, allowing us to escape uncomfortable emotions within seconds. Whenever we feel bored, anxious, or uncertain, the phone offers distraction. Over time, this habit reduces our tolerance for mental stillness, making it increasingly difficult to sit with our thoughts without external input. Social media platforms intensify this effect. They are carefully designed to capture attention and encourage repeated use. Features such as notifications, likes, and endless scrolling are not neutral. They rely on psychological mechanisms that reward the brain with small moments of pleasure. Each interaction creates anticipation, and anticipation keeps users coming back. While most people believe they are using these platforms freely, the design strongly influences their behavior, often without conscious awareness. This is where the idea of control becomes complicated. Many people argue that addiction cannot exist because they choose when to use their phones. However, choice alone does not equal control. True control involves intention and awareness. If a person repeatedly uses their phone longer than planned, or checks it without understanding why, then the behavior is not entirely conscious. In this sense, phone addiction is less about losing control completely and more about gradually surrendering attention. The impact of this pattern extends beyond individual habits. It affects relationships, communication, and social presence. In many social situations, phones interrupt moments that could otherwise create connection. Even when people are physically together, their attention is often divided. Conversations become shorter, less focused, and less emotionally engaging. Over time, This weakens interpersonal bonds and reduces the quality of shared experiences. Productivity also suffers. Although phones promise efficiency, they often undermine deep focus. Frequent interruptions, even brief ones, disrupt concentration and increase mental fatigue. As a result, tasks take longer and people feel less satisfied with their work. This creates a paradox in which technology designed to save time actually contributes to a constant feeling of being busy but unproductive. Sleep is another area where phone dependence becomes visible. Using phones before bed stimulates the brain at a time when it should be slowing down. Information overload, emotional content, and bright screens interfere with natural sleep patterns. Many people underestimate this effect, yet poor sleep has long-term consequences for mental health, emotional regulation, and attention span. Ironically, the fatigue caused by poor sleep often leads to more phone use the next day, reinforcing the cycle. Despite these issues, many people resist calling this pattern an addiction. The word feels too strong, too negative. However, addiction exists on a spectrum. It does not always involve complete dysfunction. In many cases, it simply means that a behavior continues even when it reduces well-being. From this perspective, phone addiction is not about moral failure or weakness, but about an imbalance between technology use and psychological needs. It is also important to acknowledge that phones fulfill genuine human needs. They provide connection, entertainment, and access to information. For some people, especially those who feel isolated or overwhelmed, phones offer a sense of belonging and relief. The problem arises when digital comfort replaces real emotional processing. When phones become the primary way we cope with discomfort, they prevent us from developing healthier strategies. The solution is not rejection, but reflection. Reducing phone addiction does not require extreme measures, but conscious adjustment. Simple actions, such as limiting notifications, setting boundaries for social media use, or creating phone-free moments during the day, can significantly improve mental clarity. More importantly, developing awareness of emotional triggers helps people understand why they reach for their phones in the first place. Ultimately, the question is not whether phones are harmful, but whether we are using them deliberately or automatically. When use becomes unconscious, dependence grows quietly. Admitting that we may be more addicted than we want to admit is not an accusation. It is an invitation to regain attention, presence, and balance. In a world designed to distract us, choosing awareness may be one of the most powerful decisions we can make.